Former Vice President Mike Pence testified before a federal grand jury yesterday in federal prosecutors' investigation into former President Trump's efforts to overturn the 2022 election. This, according to the AP, Pence was subpoenaed earlier this year to testify, but that was temporarily blocked by a bid by lawyers for Donald Trump. A judge eventually ruled that executive privilege concerns were not enough to stop Pence's appearance before the grand jury. So, could Pence be the guy that somehow finally takes down Trump?
I don't think so. I think one of the things we know that Pence is trying to do, he's trying to walk a tightrope here.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be the person that goes on record and brings down Donald Trump. But at the same time, I think he wants to bring down Donald Trump. So it's a tough situation. He has higher aspirations. He obviously wants to be president. He's polling at about 4%. And he's trying to do the whole Ronald Reagan kind of act every time he goes up. He wrote about it in his book, and I think that's what he's going to try and stick to in front of a grand jury. He's going to say, hey, read my book. This is what I said. He's not going to try to be too forthcoming. But I also think, Jack Smith must have something up his sleeve. He must know something. I don't, maybe there was somebody in the hallway, maybe there was somebody who was cleaning the windows, but he must know something in order to already pull Mike Pence out there and then kind of get him trapped right there. Because Mike Pence is going to try and avoid being too forthcoming. We saw he didn't want to talk about to the January 6th committee, which was smart politically. Now, of course, he has the cover of, I'm following the law. I'm compelled to give this testimony. They didn't go for the executive privilege argument. So he has that as political cover. But if he's too forthcoming, I think it will hurt him amongst the Republican base. Now, people on the left, of course, are hoping that he's going to be very forthcoming and realize that he's not going to win the GOP nomination.
Right.
Not while Donald Trump is there, and probably not while a host of other Republican options are there. So we'll see what happens, but something tells me Jack Smith must know something, and he's trying to corner Mike Pence into being even more forthcoming than he wants to.
Yeah, that's kind of what these prosecutors do, right? Is they try to trap people or maybe even get them to say something that's not quite right, and then they'll pressure them, well, we're going to get you for perjury. They're pretty tricky with the way that they operate in these conversations, but I think that you're dead on when you say Mike Pence has talked about this openly. His role in this is not a secret. He has, I think, been pretty forthcoming and honest about what former President Trump asked him to do, and he declined, and he took a lot of heat for it. So the idea that he has something else up his sleeve that could take down Trump, I'm just not sure that that's accurate. But I will say I feel bad for him because he was the type of guy who allowed Trump to have the spotlight. He was very loyal to him throughout Trump's presidency. And then on this last moment, right, where he felt like he was doing the right thing, he got kind of thrown under the bus. Yeah. And that's, unfortunately, that happens to a lot of people who are very loyal to Trump. It's like you make one wrong move and all of a sudden you're dead in the water and he sticks all your people on all of his people on you. And that's a hard place to be in. I am grateful that I don't have to navigate anything like that because I've never obviously worked for Trump. But yeah, I think Mike Pence is a good person, and he's in a really tough spot with all of this.
Well, I think what Jack Smith is trying to figure out is, were there any statements about intent? Basically what he's trying to figure out is, did Trump behind closed doors say, I know we lost,
right?
But we're going to try and do this to maintain power. That's basically a coup right there. So he wants to see if we can get anything out of Pence to show that kind of intent, rather than, I know we won, and just, he's just wrong. Yeah. Being wrong is not a crime, but certainly if you were trying to upend democracy, that is a crime. And so I think that's what Jack Smith is looking for Mike Pence to be kind of the linchpin in that conversation. I don't think Mike Pence, even if he knew that, is going to be that forthcoming. And Mike Pence is struggling even with his base, which is like kind of the evangelical, even the pro-life people. You would think that they would be with Mike Pence because his pro-life stance is more like yours. It's, life begins at conception, that sort of thing. We've seen Trump kind of waffle on that and change his stance. But a lot of those evangelicals are still sticking with Trump. And Mike Pence, I think he's a politician without a home right now.
Yeah.
And it is a shame because he stood up for on that one day, he stood up for our institutions. He stood up for our democracy and our elections. But he got close to, Donald Trump, and Donald Trump demands, fealty, obsequiousness, and that one day he ran afoul of Donald Trump, and it's hurt the rest of his political career.
Yeah, and I think if the case is that they're trying to prove that behind closed doors, Trump was not believing of the fact that he won the election or that it was all fraudulent, and he was saying, actually, we didn't win, but we have to keep pushing because we've already told people all of this, then I think Pence could conceivably claim some kind of executive privilege. I'm sure his lawyers are probably working on that because we've seen in these types of legal situations before that the people who were in the White House with Trump will say, I can't share my conversations with the president that were private, and they can only share things that were done publicly or in front of other people. That's kind of a common thing. So again, it'll be interesting to see how much he's actually able to get out of Pence. But to your point about him not having a home, it's so true. And the evangelical base, I think, is very appreciative of Trump for what he did with the Supreme Court, which ultimately led to the overturning of Roe v. Wade. That was obviously the biggest victory for the pro-life movement in decades. So it would be hard to splinter off that group and say as the vice president that you somehow have delivered more wins for them when Trump has that proven track record, even if he is now rhetorically waffling.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. My understanding was that he'd already tried the executive privilege argument and failed, and that's why Jack Smith has him in front of the grand jury. So,
well, in that case.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that that's going to work. We'll see where he actually goes with this, but I think Mike Pence is going to be very guarded. He's a pretty smart politician. He just, as we said, he's a homeless one, and that's not a good place to be. But you have a home here at Rising, and we'll be back to give you more